Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Fertility Rewire podcast. I hope you're all keeping safe, keeping well, and staying at home, following the advice that we're given. It's a crazy time, isn't it? And I know that for many people who are perhaps about to start fertility treatments or were waiting for appointments for fertility treatments, this is hugely unsettling. And so one of the things that I'm doing at the moment is I'm preparing. I do hand reflexology virtually. I do support my clients with that online with a video that I do for them during our sessions. But I'm actually preparing some videos that you'll be able to get your hands on, so to speak, to be able to do fertility reflexology yourself. So watch the space for that one. This week, I'm talking about the female orgasm, and I'm just going to explore some of the theories and thoughts around the subject and explain to you why I do recommend them for my clients. And, perhaps you've got a little bit more time on your hands at the moment. Just a thought. I really hope you enjoy the episode. And let me know if you've got any thoughts on it. Hello and welcome to the Fertility Rewire podcast, a place for information and discussion around topics relevant to fertility. I'm your host, Kat Stevens. I'm a fertility coach and founder of the Fertility Rewire program. And I'm passionate about people being given sufficient information to enhance their own fertility awareness. This episode, I'm going to talk to you about why I prescribe orgasms to my clients. It's perhaps sounding a little bit Dr. Ruth. You might have to Google that and see what that's about. But yes, I really do. I'm talking about the female orgasm here. And yes, I do prescribe them. Well, I certainly recommend them. And this is one of those episodes where the thoughts and feelings that may come up for you based on what I'm saying are really important. So what I want you to do, which forms part of my coaching process, is just to stop for a moment and gather the thoughts and feelings going on around your head as I talk about this. What are you thinking about as I say this? What thoughts come to mind and what are the feelings associated with it? Is it one of intrigue, one of interest? Or is your inner voice telling you that this is nonsense? Is your inner voice telling you that this isn't any good, that this isn't right? And these are really important facts because we cannot separate the physical from the emotional. And when it comes to you being given information, yet more information about your fertility, this could trigger a response, and this response is important because all thoughts that we have lead to an emotion, and that emotion is really important. So just bear in mind what it is you're thinking about. So first of all, I need to clarify that what I am not saying here is that in order to get pregnant, you have to be able to have an orgasm during sex. What I will be doing, though, is discussing some areas around this topic, namely, could orgasm actually help you get pregnant? Does it really make a difference? And what are the benefits? Now, an important thing to mention here is that a female orgasm can, of course, be achieved in a number of ways. It has been reported that between 30 and 40% of women claim never to have experienced an orgasm through sexual intercourse alone. And there are many more can orgasm through clitoral stimulation. And of course, this stimulation can be done to you or by you. So perhaps you've never had an orgasm. Perhaps you don't have them anymore. Things change. And perhaps you don't want one. And perhaps, quite frankly, you just haven't got the time or the energy. Perhaps you don't want to orgasm. And that's something possible that is important to explore. But what I wanted to explore is whether the female orgasm is important for fertility. And some years ago now, a phenomenon called upsuck, yes, that's a nice term, right, was coined. It was based on a theory that the contractions of the uterus during orgasm help suck up the semen that gets deposited in the vagina during sex near to the cervix. And it stated that the orgasm then helps to move the sperm through the uterus and onwards to their journey along the fallopian tubes, which I guess physically and mechanically makes perfect sense. One study actually measured the amount of semen flowback. So that's how much semen leaked out after sex. And they discovered that when a female orgasm occurred a minute or more before male ejaculation, the sperm retention was greater. So no pressure there then. But what if the orgasm happened after male ejaculation, which might be more of the norm for you actually? Researchers found that as long as the woman has an orgasm up to 45 minutes after, the sperm retention was higher. So the link as to whether this affects pregnancy success was not explored. So we cannot say from this that it correlates directly with fertility, but we can say that less sperm leaves the vagina. Kind of similar to having your legs up in a position after intercourse. But of course, it's only at certain days in a woman's cycle that the sperm can actually enter the cervix, and the research does not state whether the woman was in her fertile window or not. And this theory has been questioned by researchers who have stated that it's not essential for pregnancy, that an orgasm and its associated upsuck occurs. So, and this is a horrible term, so the upsuck itself might not be an essential part of actually getting pregnant. But let's consider what else is happening aside from the physical. That during an orgasm, your brain is concocting a very potent cocktail of chemicals. And in this cocktail, we've got dopamine, which is associated with anything, to be honest, that feels good and makes us want more of it. And is such a better feeling than the stress and anxiety about whether this will work and whether this is the right time. But along with this is oxytocin, which is the love hormone that produces feelings of closeness and empathy. It's associated with bonding also, and endorphins are also released, which are nature's natural high and also painkillers. So they're really, really powerful. Now, another important theory when we look at the female orgasm, that perhaps once it was important, but through evolutionary changes, it's no longer essential for getting pregnant. This theory suggested that an orgasm in our ancestors may have actually triggered ovulation. And this is how it works in some mammals. So for example, and this blew my mind, with cats, apparently if they don't mate, they don't ovulate. And even more fascinating regarding cats is that the clitoris is in the vaginal canal, which sounds a much simpler and perhaps more efficient design, doesn't it? But if the orgasm was necessary to trigger ovulation, you can see how that would be so important. We know that ovulation occurs today in humans, for the majority of women, on a monthly cycle, or roundabout and near to that, whether or not we have sex. So in early humans, could female orgasm have triggered ovulation? And why doesn't it today? What is it that evolved? So clitoral stimulation induces feeling of pleasure, along with the release of the chemicals and muscular contractions. And it is thought that these chemicals and contractions may have in fact signalled the ovaries to release an egg in ancestral humans. The theory goes on to explain that as we humans evolved and ovulation began to occur regularly without sexual stimulation, the clitoris moved further away from the vaginal canal. Now, this is a theory, and there are lots of other theories around. It doesn't mean that female orgasm has no purpose in conception, but it does imply its significance perhaps decreased in relation to ovulation. Now, I've talked before about how negative emotions, the fear from your modern day tigers such as stress and anxiety can in fact reduce your chances of getting pregnant. it's the body's safety system that if you're in danger, it's not going to want reproduction to happen. So through hormonal imbalance and hormonal diversion and muscle tension and so on, we can see how these wondrous happy hormones I mentioned earlier can perhaps support fertility by reducing the stress and fear, etc. It depends which one's stronger, to be honest, in the situation. So another thought and theory about development and positioning of the clitoris is that it's where it is because as a fetus develops, it develops from the same basic structure. And at whether the development for a boy or a girl starts off the same, the basic plumbing is there, and then the fetus is a boy or a girl, and the clitoris is where the penis is, and vice versa. Now, the ovaries and the testes form from the same cells, but the testes drop. So they're of the same structure, and this is represented in reflexology as well, but they drop to be outside of the body. So why did the clitoris stay in the same position as the penis, if that is the theory? Just musings, to be honest, they're becoming now. It's fascinating. But what I don't want this to add to when you're thinking about whether or not you orgasm and how it might affect whether you get pregnant, I don't want it to be added to the list of the things you must do to get pregnant. I don't want your lack of orgasm to be another factor that you feel you absolutely have to change. Another thing to add to the list. Further increasing that overwhelm and worry and stress. And yes, a new tiger, the orgasm tiger, or the lack of orgasm tiger. What I want us to look at, really, back to why I prescribe them, is what happens during an orgasm and how this might benefit you in many ways, both physically and emotionally. So at the point of orgasm, the muscles of the vagina, the anus and the uterus involuntarily and rhythmically contract and relax, which gives that sense of release. And at the same time, your brain is concocting that very potent cocktail of happy chemicals that I mentioned earlier. And a study in 2006 showed that a woman's hippocampus and amygdala, which are parts of brain and part of the primal brain, showed decreased function during orgasm, and these two are massive players in fear and anxiety. The amygdala is where your fight or flight response is. So having an orgasm, and I think specifically in this study it was related to masturbation, it helps you stay present. So to achieve the orgasm, and you don't often get this in a mindfulness course, but the focus needed to reach orgasm really keeps you present in the moment and can, in effect, perhaps push your stress and your anxious thoughts away. Having an orgasm also induces a sleepy feeling. So if falling asleep is tricky for you, it can improve your sleep quality